B of House Report Number 118-559, offered by Mr. Burchett of Tennessee.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1316, the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Burchett, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Tennessee.
Thank you, Chairman, and I appreciate your service to our great country in the Marine Corps. I should have said that earlier.
Thank you.
I offer this amendment to prohibit any funding for the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. This is just another group of unelected bureaucrats making decisions for the American people with no input from Congress, no input from the People's House. Mr. Chairman, President Biden promised to be the most transparent president in history, and he's about as transparent as a brick wall. He promised honesty and accountability for the American people, and he has not delivered. This special envoy is the opposite of that, Mr. Chairman. We have requested the names of the office staff as well as their titles and salary amounts. We're trying to do our jobs and conduct oversight over the executive branch's operations, but we have not received one bit of information on them. If the executive branch wants to make climate decisions, it must come through Congress first. John Kerry used to be in charge of this office. When I asked him how much his climate treaties were going to cost the American people, he responded with one word: trillions, Mr. Chairman. This is completely unacceptable. We're $32 trillion in debt. Every 100 days we add another $1 trillion to our debt load. We have no plan to pay it back. It's misuse of Americans' hard-earned dollars to push this administration's political agendas that are putting Americans out of work. This office of unelected bureaucrats operates like a bunch of climate dictators, and it must not receive any funding from Congress. I reserve the balance of my time.
Tennessee reserves were gentlewoman from California seek recognition.
I claim time in opposition.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in strong opposition to this amendment. Climate change has resulted in lives upended in Texas, Florida, and Oklahoma, and has led to extreme heat across the entire Northeast just last week. The climate crisis poses threats to the stability of countries, heightens social and political tensions, and adversely affects food prices and availability. And this is according to our own military. The need for foreign assistance will only increase if we do not address this significant driver of crises around the world. No country can solve the climate crisis alone. This requires a multilateral effort. Our climate envoy is lending his energy and talents and collaborating with other countries to address these concerns. His relationships with foreign leaders are a benefit to the United States and our efforts. I would think you would want to tell him thank you for doing this. Again, we should be thanking people who are serving the American people, not demonizing them for it. Funding the Special Presidential Envoy and its office is a requirement if we are to protect national security, strengthen the economy, and leave behind a safer planet for our children and grandchildren. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman from California reserves. The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can remember in 1977, there was a TV show I used to like. It was called In Search Of. And that year, we'd had, I remembered it very well because I had to go to school at Bearden Junior High School on Saturdays because of snow days, and we used up all of our snow days. But the show In Search Of had one episode. It said, In Search Of the Upcoming Ice Age. And that was the talk. We're going into an ice age. Then it was acid rain, and then it was global warming. All these reactionary things that happen to us, all they end up doing is costing us more money and making some advisory group rich, a bunch of fat cats. And every time we put these environmental regulations on this great country, and these unelected bureaucrats get out here and they get together and then they figure out what we're going to do. And guess what? We're the only dadgum country in the world that follows them. We cut a deal with China. They don't honor it. We cut a deal with every other country, and in China, for instance, they put on a new when they put a new coal-fired plant together. It's like our 1950s technology, and yet we follow the rules. No one else does. These elected bureaucrats fly around in their big jets and then they look down their nose at us, and we have to suffer the consequences. Let's talk about the real reality here. This is just another boondoggle so we can run for re-election and we can scare people. The air, the water that the water that we drink and the air that we breathe now is cleaner and safer than it ever has been in my lifetime. Those are the facts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reserve.
Gentleman from Tennessee reserves. The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back the
The
balance. of my
gentlewoman
time.
yields back. The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman from Tennessee yields back. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Tennessee. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.